Body shot, oh, that hurt, didn't it?
When adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. UFC San Diego was somewhat of a success. I say a major success if you ask me, because we had new contenders solidified. We had a ton of upsets. We had someone who suffers with split decision losses quite often finally get one in the board. You know I'm talking about Angela Overkill Hill, a fan favorite of this program for sure. Lots to talk about today, folks, and we're going to get into some news and notes straight off of the bat. So, before I do any of that, let me bring in my co-host, the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber himself, brother AJ, my man. First off, how you doing? How are you living these days, brother?
Ooh, I'm doing good, Derick. I'm living well out here, brother. It's another good weekend, but it was a rough weekend for me over here. You can look down and see that score, folks. You see Derick got one up on me this week, but you know we're going to be coming back, man. It was, even though still a rough weekend for me as far as the fights went, a very entertaining fight card nonetheless, brother. How you doing?
Yes, no, absolutely. I'm glad you take that away, you know, because that's the ultimate thing right there, is that, like, the fight card delivered. It delivered. However, AJ, I didn't want to be the first to break the news, my man. Somehow, some way, I thought you were a lock to do it, but I broke 100 wins first. This is the second season in a row. You were close. But we know how this thing goes, man. I think that this is actually a really good reminder for all of us to say that you can never rest on your laurels. You can never sit on your lead. You have to go every single week as if it's 0-0, right? Which it more or less was. But either way, rough week. You took a chance on a couple of these dogs, or a couple of these favorites who ended up being dogs, and, you know, ultimately. But listen, man, that's why we review the tape and we proceed the next week. So, folks, as you can see on the scoreboard, and those who are just listening, 101-56 is the total for me currently, 99-58 for my man AJ. So AJ, I will note, brother, you're just a little blurry over there on the screen, man, so I'm hoping that clears up as the show proceeds. But neither here nor there. We're still about 63% total for both of us, 63% plus for both of us. So you go to your favorite analyst, you go to your favorite whoever, that your bookie or your person that likes to pick on the sports bets, I can guarantee you they're probably not that high. But without any further ado, AJ, let me just do a little marketing and we'll get into some recap. All right, brother? So, folks, I do want to give you a humble reminder that YouTube is the place to go. Clearly, you're most likely watching it here. So if you're not subscribed yet, I urge you to just click the subscribe, copy the link in the URL, share it with your friends, share it on Twitter, share it on Instagram, share it on TikTok, share it wherever, but just get it out there in the metaverse, in the, you know what I mean, the interwebs. It helps much more than you could possibly understand, but I'm sure that you folks do understand the importance of word-of-mouth marketing. So I do encourage you to do that. But if anything, go to the hub, the home, bloodywaterpodcast.com for all things Bloody Water Podcast. That'll give you the TikTok links, Instagram links, Twitter links, everything. I have to add the Twitch links. The Twitch links aren't up there, but we're going to have the graphics going on in the show. But I just wanted to knock that out real quick, let you great folks know we're over 420 subscribers. The next goal is 450, then 500, then 1,000. You know what time it is. This is your favorite fighter's favorite fight show. I always butcher it right when I have to say the good stuff right there, but you know what time it is, folks. Bloody Water Podcast. Let's get it. All right, AJ, time to jump into some prop recaps, buddy. All right, my man. So we actually did it a little bit different, and I'm actually going to pull these off and talk about this, the context before I bring it in. So we decided we were going to do 7 picks, right? It was a 6-fight main card. One included the rebooking of Ariane Lipski versus Priscila Cachoeira, and we included an extra one that was on the main card and then got taken off, which was also a rebooking. Cynthia Calvillo, Nunes. Lots to talk about there. But we're going to do this prop recap, or all these betting recaps. We'll do some news and notes, get into the main card. Sound like a plan, AJ?
Let's get it, bro.
All right, brother, let's get it. So, let's talk about it, folks. It looks like on the night, and I know the graphic is a little cut off just because we had so many fights. It was hard to fit it all in there, right? But 5-2 for me on the money lines on the night. My man AJ had the inverse, 2-5. Not super duper hot, but he did cash in on some of the most important ones. The UFC debutante fight right there, where you have 2 unknowns. We both cashed in. Yazmin Jauregui right there over Yazmin Lucindo. It was a tough fight, but it was a good fight. Marlon Chito Vera over Dominick Cruz. AJ, when I polled people on my social media on Instagram, and it was 10-1 in favor of Chito, I was like, you guys don't understand how good Dominick Cruz is and how Dominick Cruz can win this fight. And I honestly believe that had Chito Vera not knocked out Dominick Cruz, we very well could have seen a Dominick Cruz decision victory, just cruising to a victory right there, right? So we hit on that. Were you sweating come round 4, AJ? Were you sweating being like, I don't know if this pick's going to pan out?
Yeah, you're right, Derick. Without that knockout, losing down those first 3 rounds, man, I was scoring him for Cruz. He was working. He was getting tagged. He get a little bit less of the damage, but he was controlling the majority of the fights until he ate a big left shin to the face, man. And it was a little worrisome. I will say.
Yeah. So I was kind of sweating too, but we got the job done, and that's what's important. Now, when we're talking about some of the other notable misses for us, 2 notable misses across the board for us. Bruno Silva over Gerald Meerschaert III. And I'm hard-pressed to find many people who will tell you straight out, flat out, oh yeah, I knew GM3 was going to get the job done. I knew he would just submit. He would drop him with his hands and submit him. Yeah, GM3 has the capacity to do that, but let's not forget, Bruno Silva is a guy who went toe-to-toe with Alex Paeta, man. 8 left hooks from that man. It did not get, put into out of consciousness. And we just had a weird performance, man. But that's the name of MMA right there. So, Devin Clark over Azamat Murzkanov. Well, that bout, I could say Murzakanov got the better of Clark right there. Nina Nunes gets the split decision victory over Cynthia Calvillo, and Priscila Cachoeira gets the victory over Ariane Lipski. So I won basically across the board, AJ. 5-2 on the money line, 4-3 on the prop bets, and 4-2 on the over and unders. Now, AJ, listen, man, we all have our rough weeks, but this is something we have to hold ourselves accountable on. So I just need to ask you. I need to do my due diligence to ask you. When I bring up these prop bets, I did a so-so, right? I had 4-3 on across the board, 0-7, my man. But what I'm more concerned about is not the prop bets 0-7, because it's easy to go 0-7 on props. We've seen week after week, like it's a lot harder than people think to actually predict an outcome of a fight. The one I'm a little worried about is the over and unders, brother. 0-7 on the over and unders, my man. That's all. You almost have to be skilled to go 0-7 on over and under. You have to be skilled to be able to pick that, because it's more or less a 50-50 chance. So talk to me, brother. What do we got for our redemption corner this week?
Woof, man. Sometimes, you'd rather be lucky than good, man. And this week I was unlucky. Like sometimes on those over and unders, man, you got them, And when like you said, Derick, 0-7 on the over and under picks is a rough one to get, man. And Lady Luck was not on my side with any of these calls, really, to be honest, man. So it was a very rough week all the way down the board, brother.
Yeah, but hey, man, this is the one thing that I pride ourselves, both of us. I pride us on this platform, the Bloody Water Podcast, on sitting down each and every week and not just saying, oh, look at me, look at my shiny gold stars and my achievements, but saying like, yeah, fucked up this week, you know what I mean? Because I'm going to be honest with you good folks that are watching at home. If you take this stuff seriously, if you're actually watching, following along the show, placing your bets, seeing the money that's made, seeing the money that's lost at times, you are understanding that this is real life. This is not fantasy, and there's no way you can honestly have an inside know into, picking these fights, man. So this is the real deal. We do it. We take accountability every week, and we don't run away from the inevitable. So one more time for the prop bets. I hit on that, the one that I'm proud on, AJ. I hit on that Cachoeira TKO right there. That's the one that we need to talk about, because I switched my pick at the last second. I said Ariane Lipski, probably not feeling good from that weight cut, a week out, COVID. Priscilla's going to come in, knock her out first round. But we hit on that one, brother. So I'm a little impressed. Now, the other ones to take in consideration, Murzakanov TKO. AJ, give me a quick 1-sentence version of, why you didn't see this outcome that I saw versus a Devin Clark.
Man, this to me was Devin Clark not being on his night again, man. And you saw it, especially when he was getting shots and running away. He was wearing those shots rough. Devin Clark had a rough performance this week too, man.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's give credit to Murzakanov. The man has bricks in his hands. That's kind of my whole entire point behind it. I was like, when he touches people, when he did that to Tafon, the Don, and Chukwi, I was like, okay, this man got bricks in his hands. So lastly, I hit on the Hadagi points. You got the TKO. That was a good bet right there, honestly. 8 knockouts coming into the UFC. But we hit on the points. And then Nina Nunes, points over Cynthia Calvillo. Now, AJ, I don't want to even take too much credit for this, because I thought this was more or less of a layup. Cynthia Calvillo, man, she doesn't get the takedown. It's at this point of her career, the striking isn't as crisp as where we want it to be. So that is your proper recap, folks. One more time, this is the whole entire shebang right here. I got a clean sweep money line prop bet over and unders, first to break 100, but AJ is not far behind, only 2 picks behind. So even though I had what I felt was a massive week, I can't even be happy with this, because if I'm not on top of it next week, I'm gonna lose my lead. So that's like the whole entire point. That's why we basically look at it 0-0. We got to get the best of it each and every single week, and that's the key. That's the goal. That's why you tune in to your favorite fighters' favorite fight show, the Bloody Water Podcast. You dig. Now, AJ, real quick, we're gonna do it a little bit different today. We're not going to jump straight into the main card. I want to actually do a little word on the street, a little news and notes and all that good stuff. So let's do it, brother. A couple of things that I want to talk about right off the bat. We have, let's just say, before we talk about UFC San Diego, like straight applicable stuff, happy retirement, right? So this is the happy retirement segment because we actually had a solid amount of fighter retirements or talking about retirements that I don't think a lot of people expected. So first and foremost, from the UFC San Diego card, Nina Nunes gets a split decision dub over Cynthia Calvillo, and then says, you know what, I'm going to hang him up. I'm going to focus on coaching. I think I've accomplished basically everything that I've wanted to accomplish. Even though she never secured a championship, she is married to the greatest woman fighter of all time. So, you know what I mean? That's that. Were you surprised? Did you see this coming? Did you know that her motivations for fighting were maybe a little lacking, maybe a couple fights ago from this point? What do you think?
Yeah, not super surprised. Like when it all went down, I wasn't expecting her to be retiring right off the bat, but I could kind of see something coming down the pipe. I noted it in the pre-show that it seems like a lot of the heat is for Amanda Nunes, her wife. So with Nina kind of always being put on the back burner, it seems like I felt like there's a little something behind it. And it kind of makes sense now. So surprised, but not like super shocked. What about you, Derick?
You know what? I wasn't super shocked, but I was a little surprised just because I was like, okay, you got this win. It's at featherweight. Flyweight, so you're going to have to make your trek up. And the person waiting on the top of that mountain is Valentina Shevchenko. Do you really, so I wasn't super surprised given the circumstance, but I was a little surprised because I always felt like Nina Nunes just needed to get a couple fights after the pregnancy to get back into good form. And then to just call it, it is what it is, man. So happy retirement for Nina Nunes. And I do have to say, she finished 11-7 in her MMA career, 5-4 in the UFC. And that was her flyweight debut, man. So she got the dub in her debut. No better time to walk away. And this is a notable trend that you're going to see here, AJ. 5-4 was her record. So in the UFC, so 1 over 500. Best time to get away when you're on top, right? Now, another UFC veteran called it quits just a couple of days ago, AJ, and that's primetime. Uriah Hall calls it quits, man. 17-11 in his MMA career, 10-9 in the UFC. I think we're starting to see the trend of like, all right, we're starting to slip. We're losing a couple, then winning, then losing a couple. I don't want to finish Sam Alvey style. And I'm not trying to even hate on my man Sam Alvey, who has not retired but did get the boot from the UFC. Inevitably, we knew it was going to happen one of these days. It's nothing to be proud of, but you want to see somebody kind of get out while they choose to get out, as opposed to when the sport chooses for them to get out. So let me ask you this here, AJ. Uriah Hall, he's tied with former champion Anderson Silva and Thiago Silva for the most knockouts in middleweight history with 8. Do you think Uriah Hall, had he given it 5 more fights in the UFC, if they granted that to him, could have rebounded from the slump that he was in? Or do you think that it was about, like, we reached our ceiling, we reached our cap, he's kind of that old generation of fighters, let's push it on to the young guns? What do you think?
He's definitely on that kind of that hill, that cusp. So I see where it came from, or I see where, this retirement came from. But when this happened, I saw this post on Instagram, or it might have been on Twitter, one of these ones, and I was a little surprised. I was like, "Damn, Uriah Hall, okay." But at the same point, makes a lot of sense. You get to call his shots, you get to end it on your own, and like you said, you don't got to retire in basically a forced kind of a manner, which I think is always best for these fighters. And like going about it and thinking about it, it makes sense that Uriah Hall, going through all the stuff he has, having a couple of the title shots, all the ups and downs that Primetime has had. It makes a little bit more sense, man. What about you? What do you think, Derick?
You know what? I think that this is the best time to get out. When you're saying my heart's not in it anymore, thank you for everybody for the opportunity. Yeah, that's the time to get out, man. Don't sit here and say like my life is predicated on fighting. I have to fight. That's my identity, because you will find yourself in a tough situation, kind of similar to this other fighter who's a former UFC title challenger, former Bellator champion, and a PFL veteran alumni, Rory the Red King McDonald. Hangs it up, AJ. He calls it quits. 23-10-1 in his MMA career. Very successful MMA career. 9-4 in the UFC. Very successful. 3-2-1 in Bellator, where he found himself a champion, but 2-4 in the PFL. And he just recently suffered a 4th loss in his past 5 fights this Saturday when he was knocked out by Delano Taylor less than 4 minutes into their semifinal playoff bout at Cardiff Motorpoint Arena in Wales. Travel all the way to Wales in PFL on the hunt for a PFL, $1 million championship. You lost your last bout in surprising fashion to this kickboxer who you're supposed to take down and dominate. You call it quits, AJ. What's your opinion? Just give me your opinion overall, man. Rory McDonald will go down as a legend, right? He had those wars with why am I blanking? Who do you have the wars with, AJ? Lawler, there we go. Robbie Lawler, Rory McDonald. He had the wars. irreparable damage, some would say, but give me your take on the situation.
Yeah, man. I at first actually saw this one when he I think it was his first ever first round knockout loss. That was the headline. I was like, damn. I mean, that's a great stat for somebody who's, what do you say, 29, 10 and 3 or something like that in his entire MMA career.
It's close, 23, 10 and 1, but close.
23, 10 and 1. So it was close enough.
Yeah.
But either way, I mean, still a pretty big fact. And for the fact of him to have that happen now and then end on a retirement, it's you can see where the trend was going, starting to slip, and being 2 and 3 and not the highest level. Not the prime time. UFC, because PFL, Bellator, they're all right, competing to be the next big one. And with Rory McDonald not being the top dog in one of those, it's a little rough.
Yeah, man. So I'm glad, too, because this is one of those situations where it used to be just pure money. You drop money on Rory McDonald, he's getting the dub. Now he's dropping these fights. People are talking crazy. Yeah, man. You just say, you know what? It's time to give it up. I've been fighting since I was 14. I've been fighting professionally since 16. I'm like 33. He's only 33. This dude's so young, man. So it's crazy because he's like, I imagine doing martial arts for the rest of my life. But when you make your exit at 33 years old, it's kind of crazy because you have literally a whole lifetime ahead of you. Like, you're so young. Like, imagine, like, for us, 33 is like, oh, man, we're still babies. We're still kids, right? For them, they're like, we lived a whole life at 33 doing MMA. So I guess the big point right here, happy retirement to these good folks. Listen, man, get out while you have the opportunity. Don't let the sport retire you. You know what I mean? You retire from the sport. It is what it is. And my last piece of retirement news before we move on here, AJ, is not somebody newly retired, but somebody who we thought was going to come back from retirement, who has now for the first time publicly spoken out about why he retired. And I'm talking about one of the biggest what-ifs in MMA history, Zabit Magomedsharipov, AJ. 18-1 in his MMA career, 6-0 in the UFC, and retires suddenly, right? So you say, yeah, he had health issues, all that, but talk to me. Help me understand here. And I'm actually going to show the clip, or it's not a clip. I'm not going to show the clip, but I'm going to show the paragraph, the text right here, AJ. So this is what it says right here. These are part of my notes right here. So Zabit says when he was asked why he retired from MMA, there are many reasons. First of all, there were many fight refusals from potential opponents. I wasn't able to get a fight for 2 years. Then the injuries started happening. Then I was sick for a long time. I almost didn't recover. There are many reasons for my retirement. The biggest reason was the inability to get fights booked. The UFC wouldn't get me a title fight. The UFC promised me one thing but did another. Both the UFC and potential opponents made promises that they did not keep. So mostly because of that is why I decided to step away. Now, AJ, I actually took one part from this and I really sunk on this and I pondered on it. And it wasn't like the majority, probably what you thought I would say, but it's him saying so mostly because of that is why I decided to step away. So I feel like there's still more. There's still more reasons why he stepped away other than this. But this is a good thing to publicly put out there for, the people, the media to say, yeah, this is why I retired. But deep down, there's probably still some more. So give me your comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very key word to pick up on, mostly. And the way he, phrased it, where he was saying all this and then jumping back to him saying, it is because of the UFC not getting fights and all that stuff. I mean, it makes sense because he was a very dangerous fighter, man. Not a lot of people wanted to risk what they had. And it must be very frustrating to be in that kind of position and then still have, like you said, the other stuff of the non mostly, but like the other stuff that is right there that's also, kind of gnawing at your heels. Rough, man, rough. And I'm excited to see where he goes because I know he was talking about like being a doctor or something. So obviously a very intelligent man. But sad, man, because like you said, one of the biggest what ifs in the entire sports right now. He could have been fired, man.
Absolutely. So happy retirement to Zabit Magomedsharipov, to veteran Uriah Primetime Hall, Nina Nunes, and none other than the Red King, Rory McDonald. Definitely can't take for granted the entertainment that all of these fighters have provided us over the years. So happy retirement to all of you good folks. And with that being said, I wanted to knock at the retirement news. We'll touch on a couple other headlines in a moment, but let's jump into the main card, brother. Let's get it.
Have you seen that replay, buddy? Your head was bouncing around like a pinball machine.
Time for some main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ. All right, brother. So he did it. Chito Vera got the job done. He's been calling for this fight against Dom Cruz for months, maybe a year at this point, right? Never said it was anything personal. It was just like, he's ahead of me in the rankings. I want to fight this man. Then what happens? He got in front of Dominick Cruz, right? He ended up being the guy that was in front in the rankings and said, well, I still want to fight you. And yeah, you're behind me, but guess what? You wanted to fight ahead. Well, time to fight me now, buddy, right? And they got the job done, man. But we're talking in the intro, AJ, and we were just kind of saying that had Marlon Vera not gotten that TKO, that nasty head kick where Dom Cruz zigged when he should have zagged, and if you really break it down, there's actual technical analysis behind it that shows that was planned, that was strategic, that wasn't just a lucky kick, right? So had he not got that, we could have saw Dominick Cruz cruising to a victory, no pun intended. Because Dominick Cruz, let's be honest, AJ, looked sharp as ever, looked on fire for a man who's overcome so many injuries, a man who was not supposed to be in this spot, but he looked great. But Chito Vera is the victor. Give me your initial impressions when you were watching the fight. Concerns, good takeaways, tell me it all.
Man, first thing was Dominick Cruz. For as storied as his career has been, homie was looking sharp, man. Fast, sharp, precise. His movement a little different. He still all like the crazy movement he does. But he was sitting down on some of these punches, man, and throwing those 4 or 5 punch combos and then getting out. And it was a little worrisome, man. That first round all the way up until the third, basically all the way up until he ate the head kick. Cruz is looking good, man. You can see it on the numbers, total strikes. He outstruck him by 40 or so strikes, 30 significant strikes. Like Dom was leading the fight the entire time. But like you said, very calculated strike from Chito, and there was actually a moment in the fight where he threw that exact same kick earlier. It just missed. So you can see him setting it up. You can see him reading it, and he was doing the film study. And we were talking about this on the pre-show, that there's more and more and more film now on Dominick Cruz, so people are able to catch it. And it's one of those things he very much likes to dip off to the side. And Chito saw it, Chito read it, and threw the perfect kick for it.
Absolutely, Ben. And I'm actually glad that you brought that up, because take a look at this, because you're talking about like the numbers, right? Dominick Cruz outstruck Chito Vera. Look at Chito Vera's last 5 wins. So if you look at his last 5 wins, you will notice that Chito Vera got outstruck in 4 of those 5 wins. The only fight where he outstruck his opponent was Davy Grant. That's the only fight. So Sean O'Malley, he outstruck Sean O'Malley. So I take that back. 3 out of 5 fights, right? So he outstruck Sean O'Malley, but that's partially because O'Malley's leg fell apart and he got the ground and pound, right? But Frankie Edgar, he was getting outstruck by Frankie Edgar, and that was another one where he was setting up that front kick, man. He threw it a bunch of times throughout the fight, and finally in that 4th or 5th round, it finally connected, right? You look at the Rob Font fight, he got outlanded majorly right there, outlanded majorly by Dominick Cruz. And I do think it is something worth noting, because AJ, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm just going to jump ahead, right? Big picture. If Chito Vera does get title aspirations, if he does get a title shot coming up here, I just find it hard to see. And don't get me wrong, man, there's no disrespect here. We picked Chito Vera to win, which was a bold call given Dominick Cruz was his opposition. But I just feel like it's going to be hard-pressed to see a long title run, given that you're almost banking on knocking these dudes out because you're giving away rounds by making so many reads. I'm not, like I said, not hating. It's all love. But I just feel like I can see a judge being like, well, I'm going to give it to the title challenger because he was more volume. He was busier. You landed the bigger shots, but he was busier, da-da-da-da-da. Do you feel what I'm saying, or do you think I'm overreacting here?
No, I feel what you're saying, man. And being a slow starter like Chito Vera is a very risky game to play, because when the other fighters banking those rounds and they're getting like you said, getting in the judge's head of, oh, I'm the one controlling the fight, it's hard pressed to always need the knockout. And if I think it was Michael Bisping who was talking to us, it might have been somebody else if I misquote this, but if you're fighting to get the knockout, you're not going to win a decision, and that's kind of Chito Vera's style, man. And so it's a risky game to play right there.
I agree, but at the same time, even though I make that assessment, I do think championship rounds Chito is a new unlocked mythical fighter. Like, this is a new beast right here, because once it gets to those rounds 4 and 5, he's still damn near just as fresh as rounds 1 and 2, and the power is still there, the speed is still there. He kind of goes at this similar pace where it's just nonstop, same pace. Listen, he breaks these dudes, man. And with Dominick Cruz, this was a situation where you're right, man. He threw that head kick. He kept on that right hand, and seeing Dominick Cruz duck off, where he would duck off and put his hand down, he was like, okay, let me just put the kick, place the kick, and boom. Right there. AJ, what does it mean to you that Chito Vera has become the second man in history, right, to finish Dominick Cruz via knockout? The only other man was Henry Cejudo. Chito Vera is the second man to do it. And you can argue that Chito Vera is the man to officially do it, to face plant Dom Cruz, because the Henry Cejudo stoppage was, according to Dominick Cruz, very early by Keith Peterson, right? So this was a flat out, there is no denying it. You got face planted, your nose is broken, rough spot. What do you think?
Rough spot, man. Rough spotting and solidifies it for Chito, man. This was a very big win on a very notable opponent. So, man, I mean, all credit to Vera because it was a beautiful kick too.
And all credit to the bettors that said, you know what, I believe in Chito enough that I think he's going to get the TKO because he cashed in on the plus 300 TKO. I honestly felt like Dominick Cruz would have edged himself out to a decision win, or if Chito Vera got the win, it was going to be by a decision. I did not think he'd be able to do this to Dominick Cruz, but in impressive fashion, he got the job done. Hit on the under, so we both kind of missed on this one. We whiffed pretty bad, but Chito Vera, man, it's almost like he's ready for the limelight. All of the fights that he's had thus far have prepared him for the moment because, excuse me, he's not flinching, bro. It's like he's absolutely ready for the call-outs. You remember what they said pre-show? They said, listen, I'm fighting for a championship. I'm fighting for my family, all this good stuff. I'm willing to die in there. So I guess, tomorrow night is going to be a good day to die. And I think both of those fighters lived by that marriage. So huge win by Marlon Chito Vera. This is inevitably the next step. And my last question before we move on here, AJ, is what is that next step? Who does Chito Vera get next? Does he get a title shot? I mean, you're number 5 and you beat number 8. So that doesn't really warrant a title shot. But this is the biggest win of his career. He said fighting Jose Aldo was the biggest fight of his career, but you just beat the former bantamweight champion, who many regard as one of the best bantamweight champions ever. So talk to me. What do you think?
And I'm pretty sure Dominick Cruz only has ever lost 2 title holders or in title fights. Like there's no contender, there's nothing like that. So this is a big win for Chito. Where does he go next? I'm thinking 2, 3. I mean, we'll see on the actual rankings, but I don't think he gets a title shot. But I do think he gets a pretty big bump. What do you think?
Well, Piotr Jan is fighting Sean O'Malley. That's already booked up. Jose Aldo, he's fighting Merab Dvalishvili. TJ Dillashaw is fighting Aljamain Sterling. So basically, Chito Vera, unless he decides to fight down and fight Merab, who I think might have a fight lined up too, he just plays the waiting game and just lets the division sort itself out. So I think we're playing the waiting game right now, but he's very, bro, you're right there. You're knocking on the door for title shot right there. If that didn't get you in, you're knocking on the door. You're right there. So huge win by Marlon Chito Vera right there. And AJ, man, we actually got kind of, how would you say, blessed? Maybe that's the right word. I don't know. We were very lucky, very fortunate because this co-main event, man, this is one where almost everybody pegged it to say this. There's no way this goes to a decision. This is impossible. How does it go to a decision? You have Nate the Train Landwehr, Nate the Freight. That's what it should be. Freight Train, not just train. Nate the Freight Train Landwehr. Because this man is 100% dog, 110% dog. Like that should be the label on Nate Landwehr as a fighter, as a package, 1000% dog. You're going to have to kill this man to get him out of there, which is why I was so surprised, AJ. A few fights ago, when Nate Landwehr got stiffed by Julian Erosa with the flying knee, I was like, man, because I had bet on Nate Landwehr, and I was like, man, what happened to that dog? I thought something happened. That's what happened when he catch a nasty knee. Now, let's talk about this. David Onama, man, a sharpshooter. Young in the game, in the big show, but he's a sharpshooter, had a hefty test against Nate Landwehr, which, if he didn't take the actual good advice that everybody gives, which is when your fighter goes down, you get on top and you don't stop punching because the referee's going to stop the fight. But when that doesn't work, AJ, and the referee doesn't stop the fight, well, you gas yourself out. And now we've talked about this, the worst place you ever want to find yourself ever is locked in a cage with a man who's trying to take your head off and you're dead tired. And that's where David Onama found himself. I want your opinion on this. Are you more impressed that David Onama was able to avoid a finish for 2 rounds, being gassed as ever against Nate Landwehr, a bona fide killer? Or are you disappointed that he gassed himself out after 1 round in a lopsided round where he was beating the brakes off of Landwehr? What do you think?
A little more upset, a little more feel like let down. Like that Onama, man, emptied that gas tank, was looking for the finish, and then literally didn't get it back until I'd say maybe 2 minutes 2 minutes left in the 3rd round, where he was finally, hyping the crowd up. Excuse me, Derick. Hyping the crowd up, getting people going and flexing a little bit. He was in a big mental battle right here as well, man. I think that was a kind of a big takeaway. This is going to be a big learning lesson for David Onama, that even his coach came in and he was like, do not let this dude break you mentally. Like that is the worst thing that can happen, because you're already tired physically. Now you're getting tired mentally. It's going to be a rough one, but all credit to Nate, man, because that was an absolute crazy fight back and forth. And I do feel like Nate Landwehr could have got the finish a little bit, like round 2, when he started just kind of doing the pot shots and like kind of, just walking away and letting him get up and stuff like that. So as much as it was a very entertaining fight, we probably could have seen a finish.
Brother, I honestly think that's what took the soul of a David Onama in that fight, even though it wasn't completely taken, because he still lasted in there. He still came up, had some of that, hyping the crowd up. But when you're getting beat up on and all you can do is lay down on the ground and just try to survive, right? And then Nate walks away, literally hyping up the crowd, so much so that the referee's like, hey, turn around, let's fight. And he's just so like, no, what's up, gladiator style, right? That takes your soul. That breaks a man right there. And he did that multiple times. So I was like, Landwehr is so confident that he's going to win this fight that he doesn't care. He'll just walk away. Like, whatever. You keep getting up. I'm going to keep putting you back down, and we're going to rinse, wash, repeat. And that's what got them the $50K each bonus for the fight of the night. This was a bona fide fight of the night right here. This was a great fight. What I took away, though, right here is that Nate Landwehr is that formidable guy. And this is one of those ones where I was like, this can be an upset. Landwehr can upset you. You have to, but that's the thing. Just imagine if the referee was just a little quick on the trigger and they just pulled him off and Onama gets the TKO first round. Then we'd be having a completely different conversation here. It's just a matter of when it turns into a dogfight, it doesn't really matter who's the more technical, more proficient fighter, because when you're tired, all of that goes out the window. All that matters at that point, AJ, would you agree, is who is a bigger dog?
Yeah, exactly. And Nate is proved 100, like you said, 1,000% dog all the time. Really put it on display right there for everybody to see.
Do you think, AJ, and I'm not, listen, this is hypothetical. Maybe we can create it ourselves here on the Bloody Water podcast, right? But they got undisputed champion, interim champion, BMF. You need to have the biggest dog belt or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Who got the most heart? Who got the most? Because the BMF, Nate Diaz and who did he fight? Masvidal, right?
Okay.
Come on, brother. Let's talk about dogs. Let's put in the Nate Landwehr's and who's another legit dog? Can you think of off the top of your head right now in the UFC? Like a dude who brings it.
The Dentist, The Damage. There's a couple out there.
Dentist ain't even in the UFC anymore.
In the UFC, I was actually thinking The Damage. Darren Elkins was the one that came to mind. That's another dog.
They already fought, and Landwehr broke him. So the biggest dog goes to Nate Landwehr, man. That's all I got to say. I will say I was still very impressed by David Onama. Absolute sharpshooter, absolute stud. If he would have kept his cardio, I'm sure he would have won the fight. I'm not sure of anything. It's a fist fight. You never know. But all ups to Nate Landwehr. He cashed in on the plus 550 decision prop right here, which is, I mean, come on, man. If you bet Nate Landwehr by decision, okay, good. I mean, listen, man, good on you. I did not see that coming. Look at the odds makers, didn't even see it coming. They said, aside from the long shot submission, he's not going to decision. He'd be better off knocking him out. And even then, that's going to be a crazy odd. So shout out to Nate Landwehr. He did deserve that bonus for sure right here. Now, AJ, man, you want to talk about a fun fight? Well, you're going to talk about this next fight that we're talking about right here. Yazmin Jauregui versus Yazmin Lucindo. But I feel a way, AJ, because I'm a man who has been praising Yazmin Jauregui for quite some time here. I'm a man who's been saying, watch out for this fight. In the pre-show, I said, watch out for this fight. Even in the show before the pre-show, where we're like previewing the pre-show, I was like, oh, that's going to be a fun matchup. Watch out for it. So when I hit the Twitters and it's the fight's coming up, and they're starting to scrap, and everyone's like, who are these? Who is this Mexican girl? Who is this, man? Who are these two women just throwing absolute bombs at each other, right? And I'm like, I hope you watched the show. Clearly, you didn't watch the show because you didn't know. But if you watched the show, you would have already known this was going to be a banger alert. The only reason I couldn't make this as a sleeper is because it was so high on the main card, which obviously Dana White knew what he was doing right there. Now, AJ, I do have to give kudos to somebody. I do have to give props to Yazmin Lucindo because I said incorrectly she's going to be working for that takedown. There's a vastly superior, how would you say? Yeah, basically, Jauregui is vastly superior when it comes to the hands. Lucindo is superior when it comes to the grappling, striker versus grappler matchup. I was proven wrong because Lucindo got that dog in her too, man. She was throwing down. She was like, oh, you're the most hyped Mexican prospect in the country right now? Oh, okay, I'm just this 20-year-old Brazilian girl, and I'm going to come here. I got more experience from you, and I'm going to sit down in the pocket, and we're going to bang. We're going to scrap, and we're going to see who gets the better of them. Now, AJ, was there any doubt in your mind that Yazmin Jauregui loses this, or that she would have won the fight? Was there any doubt in your mind? Because to some people, they're like, well, Lucindo's landing the bigger shots, having the bigger moments. Yeah, Jauregui is outlanding her, and when you look at the numbers, you'll see Jauregui outlanded 87-66, so she outlanded her, but you can argue Lucindo landed the bigger shots. So what do you think?
Yeah, no, I was actually expecting the Lucindo win, and probably because I did the same thing you did, Derick. I watched all those fights of Lucindo, and I was like, oh, this girl's going to be the takedown specialist. She's going to be hunting for those hips, get her to the ground, beat her up on the ground, heavy hips. we didn't see that at all. So when Lucindo came out and I saw her striking, being on point, her dog, literally, you said, standing in the middle of the cage, toe to toe, actually getting down, and made a harder fight than Jauregui was probably expecting. I was like, damn, Lucindo might have won this fight. I mean, I was happy I got the win on this one, but man, I was ready and expecting a Lucindo win, a split decision right here. But hey, either way, it went up to the judges, and all but one at least gave Lucindo one round. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. The controversy there was, did Jauregui? I mean, so basically, a lot of the judges, I think 2 or 3 of the judges gave Lucindo round 1 and gave Jauregui round 3. And a lot of people were saying that should have been switched. It should have been Jauregui round 1, Lucindo round 3. How did Jauregui win round 3? It's volume, man. Well-placed shots. She was landing with that left hook all day. Striking is crispy, man. And the biggest compliment that I took out of this being that I already knew that this was going to be a fun matchup. But more on the side of Jauregui, I'll be honest. Way more on the side of Jauregui than Lucindo. But the thing that gave me promise and gave me hope was that they're saying these are going to be 2 future contenders in the strawweight division. And I was like, man, well, would you look at that? That's why you tune in to the Bloody Water podcast, because we know. Before all the other people know, we know. So you're welcome, folks. She's a killer. Both of these fighters are killers. I am just curious. Lucindo's a little younger. Who do you think has the higher ceiling between these 2 fighters?
Ooh, I'd probably still say Jauregui, but I mean, that could also be proven wrong too, man, because we saw Lucindo actually really put it down out there when she was fighting, man.
Bro, think about it. Lucindo's 20 years old. I think Jauregui is just more polished right now. You know what I mean? She has less experience overall, but she's more polished. We could see a lower ceiling for Jauregui, but still a very high level prospect, but just a little lower ceiling in terms of skill set. For Lucindo, she could just be scratching the surface, you know what I mean, right here. So like she could be just very raw and have that heart and that will and that dog in her, man. So I don't have a solidified answer, but I do think both of these women are going to be fantastic contenders in the strawweight division. So a big win by Yazmin Jauregui. He cashed in on the plus 175 decision prop, and she did break her knockout streak. So once again, the UFC is the place that I've called it for years now, right? The place where streaks come to die. That is what the UFC is. So just remember that when you're handicapping fights. All right, AJ. Now we had some contention, I guess you could say, on this next fight right here. This Devin Clark versus Azamat Murzkanov fight. And the argument that I felt was if Devin Clark secures the takedown, well, you're going to grind yourself out to a decision victory. A TKO, I'm not sure. You really only got one of those in the UFC, but like maybe, right? Now, on the other hand, you got the Azamat Murzkanov, the professional, who had a hard-fought 3-round war against Stefano Chukwu where he kind of gassed himself out. You saw cardio start to fade, but he still had the knockout power. It carried all 3 rounds, right? So what do we see here against Devin Clark? Another 3rd-round TKO. I'm not going to say that that's his thing, but it seems like we're on a trend right here, right? But the key difference in this matchup that led to the outcome, I think, was that this was purely a power thing, man. I feel like Devin Clark could not handle the power of Murzakanov, which is funny because Murzakanov says it. He even says it now. He's like, I want to be active. I'd have no time to waste, and I could make 185 if I wanted to right now, but I'd rather fight at 205. So they fight at 205. You can't handle the power of basically a middleweight fighting up at 205. It's a little troubling for Devin Clark right here, man. Who is dog, man? He had his teeth broken back. Who was it, against Anthony Smith or whatever, man? And he still managed to be able to weather the storm, get back in the action. You know, still lost the fight, but whatever the case. Azamat Murzkanov gets the TKO at plus 175. I called this one out, so you're welcome. Layup on that one, folks. But AJ, talk to me, my man. I feel like it only took 2-3 minutes to really understand where the tide of this fight was going. What'd you think?
Yeah, and when Murzakanov was starting to land those stones, man, he was really thumping on Devin Clark, and it's like I said in the pre-show, man, Devin Clark, sometimes he's on, and I like him a little bit better at heavyweight, and I don't know if it's the cut that really solidified him as not being able to take the power, but he looked a lot better at heavyweight. This was a rough loss for Devin Clark, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So the real question that I have for you here, AJ, is that if you look at the last couple of losses for Devin Clark, this is stiff competition, bro. Azamat Murzkanov, Jan Kutalaba, Anthony Smith, Ryan Spann. That's tough competition, brother. So it's just like, where does Devin Clark really fit in this mix? He's ranked at number 30 right here in these Tapology rankings, but like, where does he really fit in this mix? What do you think?
Man, I actually am hoping he kind of goes up to heavyweight. You know, we saw how he has his tree trunks are for legs, And if he can now, add a little more muscle and not have to worry about the weight cut, worry about, being diminished and all of that, I feel like that's going to be his new home, man. Like I said, I like him at heavyweight, but it seems like the light heavies, the 205s, are just not really his home, not his spot, man. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I feel like he's going to be this kind of mid-range fighter if he keeps kind of maintaining this fight style that he has, right? If the big issue that I saw off the jump, he let Murzakanov push him up back against the fence where he seemed very uncomfortable. And I think that's the problem is once he starts getting more comfortable in his striking, that can set up the takedown. But when you're so adamant, I have to get the takedown, well, if you take away that threat of the takedown and you just make it a striking contest, that's what Murzakanov did, and that's why you land the big shot time and time and time again. And let's think about how we finished him, man. It wasn't just a conventional big shot, flying knee. No, he hit him in the body, bro, and he slumped him. So he did the right thing. He just targeted the, what do you call that, man? The jelly rolls, bro. You know what I'm saying? The bread basket. He targeted that thing, got him out of there. Big win by Azamat Murzkanov, and I am very excited to see where this man goes because Tefon the Don Chukwi and Devin Clark are not bad names to have on your resume in the UFC thus far. So big win right there. Now, AJ, man, I know you had to feel a way about this, but I know that when you saw the outcome of this, I can almost guarantee, because you might prove me wrong, you might be like, no, I thought something completely different, but I can almost guarantee that as soon as the outcome, the result of this fight finished, you're like, God damn it. I basically knew that was going to happen. And I'm talking about Priscila Cachoeira with the first round TKO against Ariane Lipski. For whatever reason here, AJ, and I'm going to be honest, for whatever reason here, there's a lot of people who get really hung up on, one, I honestly think it's the looks of Ariane Lipski. They really fell in love, enamored with the personality and the persona of the Ariane Lipski. But on top of that, the nickname, Queen of Violence. So they immediately think, oh, she's going to come out here and she's going to knock out Cachoeira and all that. But I'm just like, Well, if you look at Priscila Cachoeira last fight against Ji-Yeon Kim, who is a bona fide striker, legit striker. Yeah, it doesn't have the greatest resume, but if you look at pure boxing, come on, brother. Long, lanky, stiff jab, big combos. Ariane Lipski doesn't really provide that. Heavy, nasty Muay Thai, but you start to make it a dogfight, and all of that kind of goes out the window. And that's what Priscila Cachoeira does more than anything. She's called Zombie Girl for a reason, because she takes damage, keeps walking forward, and puts your lights out. And she did that. And I called TKO here, AJ, one, because of the medical stuff that was going on that we've already talked about, but two, because if you turn that dogfight, you get her back against the cage and start wailing away, there's not too many women who can handle that onslaught. So I'm glad that I hit the nail on the head here, but I feel like as soon as the result happened, you were like, damn it, I knew this was going to happen. Talk to me.
Man, I was expecting Ariane Lipski to do exactly the opposite of what you're saying. She got lulled into not lulled into the dogfight. She got drawn into the dogfight back against the cage. When I saw her just swinging ones and twos down the pipe, I knew. I was like, oh, this is Cachoeira's type of fight, And that's exactly what happens, man. Not like you said, not many women in the bantamweight division can take that kind of onslaught, that kind of power. Basically, 20 or 16 unanswered punches, man. Once Lipski really started to throw and then miss, and then Cachoeira had her back against the cage, man, I knew it was all over because that's just Cachoeira's type of fight. If Lipski could have, been smooth, ducked out the side, kept it going, kept things at range, then I would have felt a little bit better. Then I would have been like, okay, yeah, this is what I was expecting to happen. But you get drawn into the dogfight, and that's another one right here, man. Cachoeira, for all the heat she caught before, she is still a dog nonetheless, man. What do you think?
And AJ, let's because listen, man, I'm hyped about the pick, but let's extrapolate a little bit on the heat that she caught. Right, it was not like it was unnecessary heat. This was some real heat for a good reason. Let's remember Priscila Cachoeira. It wasn't just a few fights ago, man, where if you look against Jillian Robertson, she got choked out in the first round. But if you're not cheating, you're not trying, right? So they say. You're sticking your fingers in someone's eye, like, get off me, eye gouge. Like, where's the eyeballs at? I'm looking for them, right? However, you get two big wins, especially a nasty knockout win against a legitimate Muay Thai fighter, and people seem to forget about these things. So we have not forgotten. That's still not cool. You still should not do that. But like I said, Ariane Lipski, man, this was just you get put into that dogfight. It's tough. So let's take a look real fast, AJ, at the resume of an Ariane Lipski. Lost to Priscila Cachoeira, get knocked out. You win against Mandy Baum, which we have seen. I'm not trying to hate, man, but Mandy Baum has been a little, after that big win coming into the UFC, very kind of fell off, right? We're starting to see where the talent really lies at right there. Montana De La Rosa, she got smashed bad by Montana De La Rosa. I remember that like it was yesterday. That was not good. Antonina Shevchenko got smashed. Same thing. Finished second round, right? Big win against Luana Carolina, but that's the fight that put her on the map, man. That knee bar. That's everyone. Oh my God, look at her. And I think people just keep going back to that. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say that like it's a terrible, career, because look at the other losses. Molly McCann, who was definitely turned into a much more formidable opponent. Joanne Wood, legit right there. Win over Silvana Gomez Juarez. That's a huge win. That was in KSW right there. Diana Belbitsa. I mean, she has big wins, man. I'm not saying that Ariane Lipski is not a good fighter. I'm just saying when you get to this kind of upper, echelon of the UFC, man, it's just a tough outing right here. So let me just ask you this, man. Do you think that Ariane Lipski, what is her future with the UFC, man? Do you think they're going to keep feeding her? Because at this point, you have lost 3 of your last 3 and 2 in your last 5. And listen, you have 3 wins since 2019. So, what do you think?
It's all those stats are rough stats, but I do think Ariane Lipski has a fan following, like you said, probably because of the beauty, probably because of the way she looks, and then the nickname, and people really are enamored when they see her fight. But man, I think they'll keep her around where she starts to lose like 5 in a row. Mm-hmm. Then they'll really start thinking about it, especially because the women's divisions are usually a little slimmer, as far as the depth chart goes. So I think they'll keep her around for now. But you keep on losing like this, it's not going to be for long.
Yeah, you got to give the company a reason to want to keep you around, right? But I will say for Priscila Cachoeira, she is now 4-4 in the UFC, which is actually something important to know, right? It's not like she's just been on this huge tear. 4-4 in the UFC, 7th career knockout win. That's big right there. She cashed in on that. I placed a prop on this, AJ. I placed a very tiny one just because I was like, let's just see what happens, man. It was like $3 or $4 on Cachoeira TKO, man, and I ended up winning like $30, right? And that's, imagine if you really would have put a full unit on that, you would have cashed in right there. So Priscila Cachoeira, she got the job done, TKO right there. Now, last fight on the main card here, AJ, and this is the biggest upset. This is the one right here. This is the one where I was like, bro, how is this happening? We need to talk about context before we talk about anything, AJ. And the context that we need to talk about here is Bruno Silva had a very formidable fight against Alex Paeta, the boogeyman that everyone is saying is going to starch Alex Paeta, which don't even get me, or is going to start Israel Adesanya, excuse me. Don't get me started on that, AJ, because I feel like that is just a fucking ridiculous conversation to have right now. But neither here nor there. GM3 basically looked like a world-class kickboxer against Bruno Silva. Am I missing something here, AJ? Off night for Bruno Silva? Did this man come in with medical issues? Was he not mentally there? Because he was swinging for the fences from round 1 to round 3. No gas tank. It really felt like the big cage. Let's remember, Bruno Silva's used to fighting in this Apex cage, right? The big cage, along with the reach of Meerschaert, along with him doing the Rafael Fiziev. Every time he throws the big kick, he pulls the Neo Matrix. Those 3 things right there, I felt like completely froze Silva, took away his game plan, and made him a sitting duck to just get smacked on and you know what I mean, dropped and choked out. What do you think? Am I wrong? What do you think?
No, I think you're right. As much as also it was an off night or what felt like an off night for Silva, I think this was GM3 on night. He was on. He was looking good, man. Nonetheless, like we were saying in the pre-show, you give this dude your neck, he's going to take it home with you. He was hunting those submissions, but what I like to see, man, the power was there for GM3, man. He was cracking off on Bruno Silva. And like you said, when Silva's swinging big, doing all these things, missing big, it gave GM3 a little bit more confidence to go in there and fight his fight and start really, like I said, cracking up on Bruno Silva, man. So as much as I agree with you, this seems like an off night for Bruno Silva, I also think this is a very on night for GM3.
Bro, all I'm going to say is you talk to any handicapper, man. You looked at any of the big betting channels on YouTube, you did any of that stuff, and everyone would say, okay, the only person who gave him a little bit of love, right, was James Krause, because that's his buddy. He was all like, bro, and James Krause, you have to give him credit. He said, we've seen GM3 in these spots before, and he's had a knack for being able to overcome, right? Let's look for an example when he fought Makhmed Muradov, right? Same thing. No one gave him a chance. What did he do? He beats Makhmed Muradov. Oh, he finished him. Oh, fuck, right? Big deal. So Shay, which is a dude who kind of does this betting stuff with James Krause because he has his own betting stuff, which I encourage you guys to go check out. Check him out. James Krause, he's a fantastic guy. No longer, I think he retired too, right? No longer fighting. He's now just fully coaching and betting and stuff. He was like, let's be fucking honest here, bro. Bruno Silva's better everywhere. And I was just like, well, I agree, Bruno. I think Bruno Silva's better everywhere except pure submissions, right? MMA grappling is a little bit different than just pure jiu-jitsu, right? So I think that was the one-uppance right there is GM3 has that great MMA grappling, man. It's been doing it forever. Dude has like 27 career submissions, man. I was shocked, stunned, appalled, every word for flabbergasted that you can contrive. That's what I was when I watched this fight. Now, you're right, AJ. The appropriate response is not to say, oh, Silva just had an off night, GM3 was lucky. Instead, it's to praise GM3 and say, you made Bruno Silva a world beater, a legit problem in this middleweight division. You made him look normal, man. You made him look like a prospect. You made him look like he was kind of not really that great of a prospect, to be honest with you. So, if anything, kudos to GM3. Give me any comments you got here, AJ.
Yeah, man. Kudos to GM3. And, man, big fight. Honestly, this is one of those ones where I was watching it kind of stunned, like, oh, shit, this is actually getting down. Big fight. And almost it's weird because with this GM3 win, he's almost more in limbo again. Like, now where do we go with GM3? You know, he was on that losing skid. It seemed like he was really catching a lot of the heat from the media. Nobody's giving him any credit. But now he gets a big win. Where do we go? It's a weird win for limbo for GM3. I'm excited to see where the UFC puts him because this is one of a new like perennial, not necessarily gatekeeper, but in that kind of area, you know?
Yeah. And you remember when I said earlier that with the retirement of Uriah Hall, he ended up tying second place with Anderson Silva and Thiago Silva for most knockouts, 8 knockouts in the middleweight division, right? Well, check out another fun stat that we have here for GM3. GM3 has now notched the second most finishes in middleweight history, UFC middleweight history with 10. The leader is Anderson Silva with 11. So by the end of GM3's career, he could very well be the leader of finishes in the middleweight division in the UFC's history, which is kind of the craziest thing if you think about all the killers, all the badass people that have graced the middleweight division. You say GM3 is the guy. I'm just saying, bro. So huge, monstrous plus 525, submission prop victory for GM3. And this is almost like the equivalent of Paul Craig, where it's like you bet submission. Bet submission with Paul Craig, bet submission with GM3, because this is almost like a random person who never watched a GM3 fight before and they just looked at like results on ESPN, you know what I mean? And they more or less just said like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at all the results and I'm going to take the bet and I'm saying, oh, well, this dude has 27 submissions? Well, I'm just going to bet on submission. And then it should make sense, right? Clearly, AJ, we know MMA is much more difficult than that, but he cashed in. So GM3, shout out to you, man. Ate my words. And let's just not forget, he is training at Sanford MMA, which has now been rebranded to Kill Cliff MMA or Kill Cliff FC MMA or something like that. So switched up the camp, no longer at Rufus Sport, and looks like it paid off dividends right there. So that is your main card, folks. If you like the segment, if you like the main card breakdown in its totality, drop a like, share the show, subscribe, and hit us up on bloodywaterpodcast.com, on TikTok at Bloody Water Podcast, on Instagram at Bloody Water Podcast, Twitter at Bloody Water Pod. Give us a follow on Twitch. Tap, nap, or snap from me. Santa Fe Bomber from my guy, AJ, over there. You know what time it is, folks. AJ, real fast, I want to jump into some prelim action because there's some big fights that we didn't talk about that were massive. And AJ, I mentioned it in the pre-show, but I cannot. You know, as for the type of fan that I am, I cannot go without mentioning this again. Angela Overkill Hill got the dub on Lupita Gomez. And I'm not even mad that she broke 2 of my parlays right there because I had easy cash money parlays. Loopy Godinez was in both of those parlays. Angela Hill, she said it. She says, I'm coming here to fuck up your parlays. We're fighting at 120 pounds. I'm the more experienced fighter. I've been working on my wrestling. I've been working on my takedown defense. And Angela Hill didn't look like a Muay Thai fighter out there, AJ. She looked like an MMA fighter. She was shooting in for takedown. She was throwing submission attempts against Loopy Godinez. And I think a lot of people think that kind of zapped away the confidence of the young fighter in Loopy Godinez. And listen, Angela Hill, for the first time since 2016, was on the right side of a split decision, AJ. It's almost like the sun has come out from the clouds and the MMA gods have graced us and said, Angela Hill, you deserve this win. And I want to be honest, before you comment, AJ, the last thing that I have to say on this is that I have to repent for my sins, AJ. I had given up on betting for Angela Hill because I had bet against her time and time again and lost every time. It's like, God damn it, man. Like, the fan in me won't not let me bet for her. Then I learned my lesson. I said, logically, Loopy Godinez is going to run away. She's going to take her down. It's going to be the same story, rinse, wash, repeat. and I finally don't bet on Angela Hill, and guess what? She wins. So maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the guy. Maybe I shouldn't be. Every time I don't bet on Angela Hill, that's when she wins. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. You tell me, AJ. Talk to me.
Yeah, man, I'm just happy to see, like you said, finally a decision win for Angela Hill.
Yeah.
Oh man, a good fight, big fight, and yeah, I was not shocked because I feel like this is the time of Angela Hill, like you said, looking like a complete fighter, no longer just an MMA fighter, an actual well-rounded martial artist, all in general. Didn't let Loopy Godinez get off on all the stuff she was trying to get, whereas I do agree with you. I think it broke the mental fortitude that was Godinez, where she was coming in there a little confident. Angela Hill really weighed in, or rested on her experience, her grit, her tenacity, and really looked like a complete fighter, man. Very impressive win for Angela Hill.
You have to love that, man. And she even said it, man. She's like, I'm learning new tricks now, so you can't teach this old dog new tricks. And I was like, man, Angela Hill is like old as hell. She's like 38 years old, bro. You know what I mean? And she's out here getting it. You got to respect that, man. She was jubilated. She was happy. I'm happy for her. And she got the win in San Diego, man. Come on short notice. That's like, she loves short notice fights. Like, oh man, I almost know too much. I almost follow her too much. I'm such a big fan. So I'm like, I cannot hide my bias here, folks. I'm sorry. But AJ, another big major win. Tyson Nam, your sleeper, the man who we says he has 2 paths to victory: land the big right or land the big left. Those are your 2 shots to victory. And Ode Osbourne set his chin up on a silver platter, jump knee. Try to be flashy, and you know the time-tested rule, AJ. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. What happens when you start throwing fancy spinning shit and flying shit? You get knocked out. And that's what happened. Tyson Nam says, oh, I'm going to wait for you to jump down. I'm going to sink into this, and boom, knock your lights out, bro. And I will just say this here, AJ. Tyson Nam does have this way about him that I've always loved, that he always smirks when he fights. He's always just kind of like, okay. Like he's really enjoying it. And then you knock this man out. And then you get a bonus, $50K bonus. AJ, impressive. And your sleeper. So kudos to you. Talk to me. What do you think?
This is the one saving grace of a bad week for me, Derick. My sleeper finally came through, and I was actually looking for Ode Osbourne to be the one getting the knockout, but it's good to see the old dog Tyson Nam get in there and get things done, man. Like I said, this is the one saving grace of a really rough week for me over here on all this betting odds and all this stuff, man. But the sleeper came through and provided a lot of entertainment, man, and a big underdog that Tyson Nam was. If you cashed in on that check, man, you know you made a lot of money right there. I was just happy that this sleeper fight finally came through, man. And very fast knockout, 2 minutes in, 3 minutes in, whatever the case is. Big win for Tyson Nam, man. And like I said, I was happy that my sleeper was actually a good one this week.
Absolutely, brother. 3 minutes in the first round knocked him cold out right there. And Tyson Nam is now back as a real player in the flyweight division, man. Like, that was crazy to take away all that steam from Ode, man, because we know Ode is the real deal, man. Once he gets within himself, he's the real deal. But Tyson Nam, he was the man of the hour, man. So a couple other ones. We already talked about Nina Nunes got the big win over Cynthia Calvillo. That was part of our main card recap and whatnot, but massive win. Rough go for Cynthia Calvillo. I wish she would, focus more on getting takedowns than she was on trying to redefine her boxing and her stand-up, but, that's neither here nor there. The big controversy we have here, AJ, before we talk about another massive knockout, Martin Buday versus Lucas Dresky. Somehow Dresky, even though his name starts with a B, I don't know where this D comes from, but Lucas Dresky, right? Controversial decision? I think so. If you were watching that fight, Martin Buday, the man was like a minus 250 favorite to close. I have a feeling some of the judges might have thrown a little cash on my man because they punish Lucas Dresky for having more volume, right? If you look at the numbers right here, and if I just throw these numbers out to you and you tell me neither man got dropped or nothing like that, no one got majorly rocked, and you tell me who you think would win in this fight 9 out of 10 times. One fighter has 66 total strikes out of 188. The other one landed 124 out of 280. I guess that's really the only numbers that I have. Yeah, who normally wins in a situation like that, AJ?
It's usually the guy with the bigger number, Derick. And if you even go look at the stats, Dresky was mixing things up, 49 shots to the head, 51 to the body, 18 to the leg. Whereas on Buday, just 50 to the head, 3 to the body, 13 to the legs. A difference in there. But what I like seeing, I love that ESPN does the thing where they kind of like the more red somebody is, the more damage they get. Buday's red as ever, man. He's beat up everywhere he can be. And Dresky, a little red on the head, a little red on the legs, doesn't really matter. But like you said, they must. We got to follow that paper trail for them judges because they might have cashed in a little bit.
I'm just saying, brother, that was a very controversial decision. I think the majority of people thought that Dresky won the fight, but I'm not gonna lie, I did pick Buday to win. So, I mean, good on me, I guess, right? No, just kidding. That's one of those ones where you don't want to win it even though you won it. You know what I mean? Like, you want the right man to get his hand raised right there. AJ, Jason Witt, man, I'm thinking heavier man. You come in, rebooked. My man Josh Quinlan came in with some metabolites in his system. All right, brother, this is the comeuppance. This is redemption time. Jason Witt gets the job done, and he gets cold cocked, man. Bad. He gets cold cocked bad, bro. 2 minutes into the first round. He just tries to throw some shit that you're just like, this reminded me a lot, honestly, AJ, of the Ghost Pepper, Eric Gonzalez, when he fought Jim Miller, and he throws some crazy like axe kick and puts his hands down like this is like a karate class or something, and just gets cold cocked. Boom. No, that's it, right? Same thing. Jason Witt is like throwing some kick, and he literally throws everything. And you know how you have to put your hand down to get that torque on your hips? You do it, but guess what? If your hand's down, what's blocking your chin? Nothing. And guess what happened? Left hook, sleep before you hit the ground, man. Butt hit the ground, then hit the ground, then head hit the ground, and Josh Quinlan gets another knockout. I mean, if you were a betting man, obviously this was the best outcome because a TKO was like a minus 160 prop for Josh Quinlan. Almost made it too easy, personally. But what do you think?
Yeah, almost made it too easy, and this is a rough one because it just what's the word I'm looking for? It just gives the metabolite, all that stuff, all that, just a little more reason to keep doing it. A little more. There's no real repercussions that come from this, and no real learning experience for Quinlan. So as much as it's a big win for him, I feel like it's not like it's tainted. It's a little rough. It's like they give him and I guess all credit because it is a very well timed punch, but man. A rough one to see. I was, as much as I thought Quinlan was going to win, I said in the pre-show I was betting on the N3 metabolite. I wanted Jason Witt to win. I wanted there to be that redemption arc, that storyline. But like you said, man, your hands are down, your chin's in the air. There's really the best recipe to take a quick nap.
100%, man. And, another recipe for taking a quick nap was the recipe that Mowgli Benitez, not to take a nap, but to give a nap, I guess I should say, handed out to Charlie Ontiveros, man. Charlie Ontiveros came out looking sharp, throwing axe kicks, landing axe kicks, fancy techniques. He's got that karate background. This is a very feared striker in the, Texas regional scene back in the day. And he fights Mowgli Benitez, who I just feel like people underestimate him time and time again. And I said it. I was like, for Mowgli Benitez, more paths to victory. Right? The wrestling is very underrated. People do not respect his wrestling. So what he should do is, I think that he should get a takedown and he should ground and pound for the finish. And I actually have proof of saying this here, AJ. I'm going to pull this up real quick, man, because follow me on Twitter, folks. If you see I do the live tweeting all the time for these events, man. And I said, I think Benitez has more paths to victory than Ontiveros, literally what I'm saying now. Might see a takedown from Mowgli and then a ground and pound finish. Well, a couple minutes later, what do you see? You see a takedown from Mowgli and a ground and pound finish, and he got the job done, man. Were you surprised?
No, not really, man. Not really. I think both of us were looking for Mowgli to win this one. And as good as Mowgli Benitez is, man, I feel rough for Charlie Ontiveros because he really is suffering after getting slammed on his head like that and the neck injury. I feel like he's really having a hard time kind of getting back into the flow of things. It's going to be interesting to see where Charlie Ontiveros goes after this, but all the best to him because that is a rough one, a rough loss for him on this one too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. And then the last prelim bout to talk about, man, I just felt like we should talk about this. I told you all, this was my sleeper. Youssef Zalal versus Blackshear. I said, do not sleep on Blackshear. He can get the upset in this fight. And he almost did, man. He came just as close as you can to getting an upset without getting upset. Even though he gassed out round 3, Zalal completely took over round 3. Majority draw for these fighters, right? I think Zalal got the job done personally, but it's close. You could have given Blackshear the first 2 rounds. Man's grappling is phenomenal. Am I right, AJ? This dude's going to be a player in the division. What do you think?
Definitely going to be a player, man. And yeah, this is, I also thought Zalal had it, just edged it out a little bit, but you can't sleep on Blackshear, man. And this is another one where it's a little weird of a judging that 2 of them both did a draw, but it is what it is. And I think there's going to be good things going forward for Blackshear in the future. And it's good to see Youssef Zalal is kind of looking back into top tier shape.
Absolutely, and let's not forget that Blackshear is a former Cage Fury champion, right? So this was no slouch, man. This is no slouch. So that is your prelim coverage right there, folks. And we're actually, AJ, man, breaking news. We're going to skip the rankings review this week. We're a little late on time, a little short on time, I guess I should say. But just know, man, we have a lot of big players right here. Not a lot of ranking shifts going on. We know the spot with Chito. We already said it earlier. He's in a limbo. We got to play the waiting game. There's nothing really too pressing other than that right now. So what I want to do here, AJ, is I actually just want to talk a couple word on the street things really quickly, and then we'll just get up out of here, man, because I just had a couple more things that I wanted to cover. And one of those things includes a couple of quotes right here. And this is one of them is Luke Rockhold, man. Luke Rockhold, he has a little bit of a conversation. He says that he basically rips the UFC's bonus structure. And when I was thinking about it, I was like, that kind of makes sense. And this is just a quick quote, and I just want to react to it. He says the valuation of the company, the UFC, is going up fucking billions of dollars, and we're still stuck on 50,000 bonus checks. Like, what is that? And then if you think about it, the UFC used to do like 100K bonus checks like 10 plus years ago, right? So it's like you got stuck on 50K. You're doing more events than ever, so you're giving out 50K more often, which makes sense on why you can't do 100K. Come on, you're giving that out every week, multiple times a week. Like, come on, you know what I mean? And sometimes they're giving out 7-8 bonuses. Like, yeah, we can't do that. But how do you feel? How do you react to that, man? Luke Rockhold is kind of onto something, yeah.
As much as I think he is onto something. Man, that's a lot of money. If they're giving out 100K bonus checks 7-8 times a week, every single week, besides like, I think what they don't do like 10 weeks out of the entire year, some crazy stat like that. It makes more sense that before, when there was only 7, pay-per-view events, that's when they were giving out these 100K, these actual big bonuses. You're giving out 50K, like you said, 7-8 times every single week, man. I don't. That's not a lot of, or that's not a number to scoff at. That's a lot of money that the UFC's delving out. So as much as fighters should get paid more. I don't know, man. That's a lot of money coming from the only source that's paying you. Yeah. You're gonna ask for more. Always ask for more. Do it, yeah. But I can also see the UFC being like, bro, no.
Fair take, man. Next piece of business right here. Paddy Pimblett. He reveals that he's around 200 pounds right now, man. He's targeting a December return, but this is what I want your reaction to. This is a quote. He says, "When I'm a little older and I start fighting ranked opponents, I'll keep my weight down. But for now, I enjoy putting on a little chub rub. You know what I mean? After the fights, right? Brother, you're doing irreparable damage to your body. I'm just going to say that. You fight at 155, you're making 40-plus pound weight cuts every couple of months, every 3, 4, 5 months, whatever. It's just not good. Do you see longevity in his career if he continues this lifestyle?
No, man. This is even just from a physiological standpoint, cutting that much weight isn't that good for your body, and it's not good to put it back on after. Like just yo-yo effect like crazy, man. There's a lot of systems in your body that can go out of whack from that, especially that drastic of a weight cut. Homie, he fights at 155, and he is 155 or 145 there.
155.
155, and you weigh 200 pounds, man. You're cutting down 45 pounds to get there. 3-4 times a year, depending on how many times you fight. It's I don't think there's longevity in that kind of up and down action. What about you?
No, I don't think so at all, man. But I also do think that this is the MMA. MMA brings in and attracts like reckless people. So can you be too surprised? Like John Jones is a great example. People have always used him as the ultimate example. Like this is the definition of a wild man, but that's probably why he's so good at what he does, because he's so just wild, you know what I mean? So Paddy Pimblett, man, he wants to eat a couple burgers after the fights. Fuck it, man. Why you fat shaming my man? You know what I'm saying? I just think that, for the medical people out there who are a little delved into that sphere, just not too good. All right, AJ, last piece of business. Khabib Nurmagomedov, he says that Charles Oliveira is starting to feel the pressure of the Islam Makhachev fight. Now check out this quote right here. He says that for Nurmagomedov, he finds it all to be a bit telling of where Oliveira's current mentality is at as the fight approaches. He says, so what is not arrogant from his side, from the Oliveira side? Because, Oliveira, we just talked about last week. He's calling, saying that they're being a little arrogant, a little all that good stuff, right, on the Makhachev side. He says, so what is not arrogant from his side? That's that he wants to beat Islam Makhachev. Is that right? What we're talking about is true, right? So tell me who offended him. Not Ali Abdelaziz, not myself. No one insulted him. Definitely not Islam. He has never insulted anyone. I don't see any kind of arrogance here. I simply think that Charles Oliveira is starting to feel the pressure of the fight. Big words by the proverbial goat of the of MMA, man, Khabib Nurmagomedov. What do you think?
Man, as much as I like him coming out and saying all this stuff, I wish it was Makhachev. Yeah. I wish it was Makhachev speaking for himself, kind of, adding more fuel to his fire instead of having other people do it for him. But I think it is telling that instantly the first word or the first name that Khabib drops is Ali Abdelaziz, because that's who that one is attacking. We all know that. I mean, that's who that one is going after. But at the same point, I think he's onto something, because it seems like Oliveira, is kind of trying to hype himself into it. It seems like he's trying to get a little edge, get a little more grit in there. But like I said, I wish it was Makhachev saying these things and not Khabib.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that, and that's a fair point, man. I definitely think that, listen, man, I don't know. I'm torn. I almost want, because I know we're going to have to break this fight down when it comes, and I want to make this just a stay away. I just want to not. I just want to enjoy it. You know what I mean? I don't even want to have to break it down. But, that's part of our job, and this is what we get tasked with doing. But lots of heat, brother. Lots of heat. All right, my man. Listen, great show. Great show as always. Next week, we have a UFC pay-per-view back on our hands. Arguably one of the worst pay-per-views from top to bottom that you will see in quite some time. But the main event makes it worth it, right? Go to your local sports bar. Pay your $5 cover. You know what time it is. Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards, number 2, AJ. Hot take. Who do you have? Who are you leaning towards right now? And if it's Edwards, get the fuck out of here. You know it's Usman. What do you think?
You already know, Derick. Yeah, I'm going with the Nigerian nightmare, Kamaru Usman. Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see what the odds are in this one, because Leon Edwards' last loss was Kamaru Usman, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of where they go. And if Edwards can get this one done, all of us will be absolutely shocked. It's going to be a crazy win. Wild times in London if Edwards can pull this one off.
Early odds, AJ, and this is actually not going to be, for London, because Leon Edwards, this fight is taking place in Salt Lake City, oddly enough. I don't really know why. But early odds indicate Usman is a minus 340 favorite with a plus 270 comeback for Leon Edwards. So the odds makers see it as going to be one-way traffic for Kamaru Usman. I kind of see it the same way, but we will talk about it more in depth next week. Folks, you know where to find us. Just drop down below. Hit up all of these links. If you're on YouTube right now and you're not subscribed, I encourage you and I urge you to subscribe. Do the right thing. Be a good Samaritan, right? If there's anything, I'm going to leave you with the advice that my old math teacher, my 10th grade math teacher, gave me that has stuck with me ever since then. He would dismiss us from class, and he would always just say this: do the right thing. You know what to do, folks. Subscribe. This is your favorite fighter's favorite fight show. You know what time it is. AJ, brother, any last words for the people before we get out of here?
Woo, you nailed it best, Derick, man. Do the right thing. Make sure you share that with your friends. Subscribe, hit the like button, all this stuff. Anytime you see the media, just give us a little bit of extra push out here, folks. We do appreciate it all. But it's going to be a fun fight card next week, man. I'm excited to break it down with you.
Absolutely, AJ, man. And actually, I want to share one last thing before we get out of here. This is going to be the tidbit. This is going to be the good tidbit for the good folks who they watch the whole entire thing from start to end, because people like the clips and all that good stuff, but this is the hidden gems right here. I'm gonna share something real fast, AJ. We're gonna go back to Twitter, and I wanted to share this because, man, this is the perks of living in Las Vegas, man. So yesterday, right, let's see this. Let's take a rewind. Yesterday, man, I get invited. Oh, hey, come out. There's a High Rollers event. This is jiu-jitsu. You see, this is where the t-shirt comes from, the High Rollers, right? This is where people just basically smoke a bunch of weed and do jiu-jitsu, man, in a cage. So it's awesome, right? So I'm over there, and guess who pops up? Oh, guess who's over there, man? He's about to come in for just a quick super fight real fast. None other than Aljamain Sterling, right? Aljo comes in. He's like, all right, I'm going to get the tie-dye rash guard in. I'm going to come, do the super fight. Who's accompanying him? Merab Dvalishvili, of course. They roll tight together like that. So the whole entire point of why I'm showing this, folks, is that it's actually really intriguing what you will find when you just roam in these Vegas streets, man. This is the fight capital of the world, the entertainment capital of the world, and that is kind of the beauty of being locked in over here, man. You just run into these dudes. They're just chilling, you know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to share that real fast. AJ, what do you think, man? That was kind of cool, yeah?
Hell yeah, bro. That's awesome. Yeah. That's one of the cool things, like you said, being in the fight hub of the world, basically. It's a very, very awesome experience, because you're always posting stuff like that too, man. So it's nice to see how you're out there doing big in Vegas, man.
Absolutely. And the dopest part is that, bro, it's not like it's a bunch of security. It's not any of that. You go over there, because it's low key, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm not telling you where it's at. I'm just saying it's a event that happens out here. So you go, you get your homie hits you up. Oh, I got a fight over there. My buddy has a fight. Oh, we're about to go check it out. And everyone is just blown. They're taking this big contraption, AJ, and they put a bunch of weed in it. And it's like a leaf blower, but for weed. And they just blow it all over the place, right? And Wiz Khalifa word on the street. Wiz Khalifa was supposed to be there last night. He wasn't there, you know what I'm saying? But Aljo did grace us with his presence, and so did Merab. So that is it, folks. Little gem for you, just a little personal. I don't really share too much personal information from time to time, but that's it. We've had enough. Great show, as always. Great work, AJ. Until next time, folks. Peace.